This video, we are going to sketch the graph of this parametric equation. So parametric equation, we have one parameter t. This parameter links two functions, x and y together, and then there is an interval where t lives. All right, so first of all, I have a parametric equation, and then I have a table. I already select the t values for you. So when t equals to 1, what happened? When t is equals to -1, we have x equals to 1 minus -1 square, that is equals to 0, and then y is equals to 2 times -1 minus -1 square, that is equals to -2 minus 1 is -3. So the first point I have is 0, -3. All right, let's just put this in here, and then I will fill out the table. When t is equals to 0, we have x equals to 1 minus 0 square, and then y equals to 2 times 0 minus 0 square. So I have 1 comma 0. And then when t is equals to 1, I have x equals to 1 minus 1 square, and then y equals to 2 times 1 minus 1 square. So I have a 0 comma 1. When t is equals to 2, I have let's see, x equals to 1 minus 2 square, -3, and then y equals to 2 times 2 minus 2 square, that equals to 0. So I have a -3 comma 0. And then I fill out the table. I have to use a darker color for that, because using green on the picture, you won't be able to see it. So the first point I got is here, right? First point, second point, third point, fourth point. Remember, the order is important, and t must be in ascending order. So the first point is x equals to 0, y equals to -3. So 0, -3. And then the next point is 1 comma 0. The point after that, 0, 1. So we have 1, 0, and then 0, 1. And then -3 comma 0, so -3 comma 0, and then my parametric curve is this. So first point, second point, third point, fourth point. Did I miss anything? Yes, I missed the orientation, which is the direction. So this particle, the dot right there, is moving along in this direction, and then that is the terminal point. All right, so this is the first one, and then I have one more, because one problem is never enough. The next one, I will make it more fun. I will put this on trig function. So our parametric equation is, we have x equals to t plus sine of t, and then y equals to cosine of t. T is a parameter that links two parametric equations together, and then the interval of t is between -pi and pi. So if you look at my table, I already select the t value for you. So we go from the smallest to the biggest. When t is equals to -pi, what do we have? We have x equals to -pi plus sine of -pi. So that is equals to sine of -pi. So -pi means you go 180 degree clockwise, right? So at that point, y is equal to 0. If you don't know what I am talking about, you have to review the unit circle. Trigonometry on unit circle. If you don't know what I am talking about, sine of -pi is equals to 0. At -pi, that is on the x-axis, between the second and the third quadrant, so y is equals to 0. So we have -pi plus 0. This one, since I have to do the graph, you have to give me an approximation. So -pi is -3.14. And then y is cosine t, right? So cosine of -pi, at that point, at -pi, 180 degree clockwise, x is equals to -1. So when t is equals to pi, I have -3.14 comma -1. So -3.14 comma -1. And then the next point is a -pi over 2. So t is equals to -pi over 2. I have x equals to -pi over 2 plus sine of -pi over 2. So that is a 90 degree clockwise. So that will be -pi over 2. At that point, the y-axis between quadrant 3 and quadrant 4, we have y equals to -1, so that will be pi over 2 minus 1. So pi over 2 minus 1, it is okay to put that right here, but you need an approximation to do the graph. So when you approximate this, make sure your calculator is in radian mode. So that is equals to -5.7. You have to approximate using radian mode. So on a graphing calculator, if you don't know where to find radian mode, so take out your calculator. Do you see that there is a second, 2nd second, and then on the right hand side of it, there is a mode key. So press that mode key, make sure your calculator is in radian mode. You use degree mode only in application. Other than that, you use radian mode, right? And then the y value is a cosine of -pi over 2. So at that y-axis, we have x equals to 0. Equals to 0. So this is a 0. Then we have a -2.57, comma 0. And then the next point is t equals to 0. So t equals to 0. T equals to 0, we have x equals to 0 plus sine of 0. So t2, 0 add together is a 0. And then y is equals to cosine t, right? So cosine of 0 is equals to 1. Then we have a 0, comma 1. So 0, comma 1. And then this point is 0, comma 1. And then the next point is pi over 2. When t is equal to pi over 2, we have x equals to pi over 2 plus sine of pi over 2. So that will be pi over 2, 90 degree, y is equals to 1. So use radian mode to approximate that. That is equals to 2.57. And then y is equal to cosine of pi over 2 at the y-axis, x is equals to 0. So this is pi over 2 plus 1, 0. So we have 2.57, comma 0. And then the last point is t equals to pi. So t is equals to pi. We have x equals to pi plus sine pi. So sine pi is 0. So that is just equals to pi. Pi is 3.14. And then y is equals to cosine t. So we have cosine of pi. Cosine pi 180 degree, x is equals to -1. So this will be pi -1. So we have approximation 3.14, comma -1. So let's take a highlighter. What I wanted to do is I want to grab those 5 points in that order. So the first point I got is right here. So -3.14. That is my first point. And then this is my second point. And then 0, 1 is my third point. So 1, 2, 3. And then my fourth point. And then my last point. All right. So let's plot them. So the first point is -3.14, comma -1. So when x is equals to -3.14, 1, 2, 3, 3.14, -1. So that will be right here, right? And then the next point is -2.57, 0, which is right here. 2.57, 1, 2, 2.57, 0. And then the next point is 0, 1. And then the next point is a 2.57 positive. So 1, 2, 2.57, 0. And then the last point is 3.14, -1. So looks like a semicircle to me. So this is the direction, and then my orientation is this. Alright, so that is the end of this problem, and that is also the end of this video. If you think my instruction is helpful, please like, subscribe, and share the video out for me. I appreciate your help really much. So signing out for now. I see you in the next video.